It was supposed to be a final adventure, a celebration, one last time to feel like kids before life pulled them in different directions. Ryan, Jace, and Lila had been best friends since elementary school. In their small Washington town, the woods were both playground and proving ground. They'd spent countless summers exploring the forest past Cinder Creek, climbing trees, catching frogs, daring each other to camp out under the stars. Now seniors, they were a few months from graduation. Ryan had already been accepted to a university on the East Coast. Jace was planning to work with his uncle in construction. Lila wasn't sure. She talked about art school, but mostly she talked about needing time to figure things out. That weekend in late May, they packed up Jace's old Subaru and drove out to their favorite spot by the creek. The forest was still damp from a spring rain earlier in the week. Wildflowers dotted the trails. It was quiet, peaceful. They set up a single tent near a mossy clearing, not far from the water. As the sun dropped, they built a fire and cooked cheap hot dogs on metal skewers, laughing about middle school crushes and who still owed who $5 from their last bet. Later, the conversation shifted to creepier things: urban legends, true crime stories, and local folklore. Jace brought up the Pine Witch, a local myth about a woman who vanished in those very woods 100 years ago, said to lure travelers away with the sound of someone they trust. No offense, Lila had said, but that story's so fake, you can practically see the gas station from here. Jace grinned. Exactly what someone in a horror movie would say right before getting snatched. They all laughed. But by 2:30 a.m., the fire was down to embers and the forest was thick with darkness. Ryan nudged Jace. Hey, I gotta take a leak. Come with? Jace groaned, rubbing his eyes. You afraid a bear's gonna get you? No, Ryan said, already putting on his shoes. I'm afraid you're gonna snore loud enough to summon one. Lila, half asleep in her sleeping bag, mumbled, Leave the flashlight. Ryan tossed it toward her. We'll be right back. They stepped off the trail into the trees, maybe 100 yards out. The forest at night was different. Quiet, but not silent. The kind of quiet that felt like it was waiting. They talked just to break it up, making jokes about the Pine Witch and betting whether Ryan would trip over a root. It took less than 10 minutes. But when they got back, something was off. The tent flap was open. The flashlight they'd left with Lila was lying outside, blinking on and off like the battery was dying. Ryan crouched and looked inside. Lila? The sleeping bags were empty. Her boots were gone. She probably went to the bathroom too, Jace said, but his voice wasn't confident. They waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Ryan walked the trail toward the creek. Jace went the opposite way toward the old fire pit. No sign. They called out for her again and again. No answer, no rustling, just trees and stillness. At 4 a.m., panic hit. By sunrise, they'd searched as far as they could without getting lost themselves. They ran back to the car and drove to the ranger station. A search was launched. Local police got involved. Drones scanned the area. Search dogs combed every inch from the tent to the creek. Nothing. Not even footprints. On the third day, a ranger found Lila's necklace, a silver chain with a tiny opal stone, hanging from a low pine branch above the tent. No one could explain how it got there. The branch was too high to reach without climbing, and Lila never took it off. Ever. Weeks passed, then months. Rumors started, as they always do in small towns. Some said she ran away. Some blamed Ryan and Jace, said maybe there had been a fight or worse. But there was no evidence of foul play, no signs of struggle. Ryan stopped talking. Jace dropped out before graduation. Their friendship fractured under the weight of grief and suspicion. The woods past Cinder Creek were eventually closed off, signs posted, trails rerouted. But people still whisper about what happened. Some say they hear laughter late at night, deep in the trees. Others claim to have seen a girl standing just off the path, barefoot, staring back at them with wide eyes before disappearing into the brush. But Ryan knows none of it is just stories. because the last night they ever saw Lila, he swore he heard her voice, calling faintly from deeper in the forest, just as they turned back toward the tent. But when he called her name, the voice didn't answer. The pines don't whisper back, and they never found her.